What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the Fight Out podcast. Today, we're breaking down UFC 328 on the prediction show, giving the predictions, seeing if we can get a bet up. We're going to go from the early fights all the way through to the main event, starting off at the early fights. I think there's some bangers on this card. I think it's actually a very interesting card. We've got the multiple screens going on. We've got the betting on one, we've got the fights on the other, and then obviously we've got the camera here. So we're not fucking about. We're back in a big way. If anyone could support us, like, comment, subscribe, it'd be much appreciated. So the fight that I'm going to start with is Roman Kopylov against Marcel Tulio. Now, I know there's a different fight before it, but to be honest, they're the early prelims. You can't really bet on them at the minute. So odds-wise, we don't know where we stand with that. So we've basically got middleweight Bryce Mitchell fighting Marcel Tulio. I think it's an interesting fight, to tell you the truth. I think it is definitely one of them that can go either way. And I know that I say that, a lot basically. But I was always a fan of Kopylov. He does kind of look like Chase Chase Hooper, a big version of him, big Russian version of him. His opponent, Marcel Tulio, I didn't know much about him until he fought Christian Leroy Duncan in his last fight, to tell you the truth. And obviously, I was only following that really due to the English connection. Big Chris Duncan, not Scottish Chris Duncan. So he got beat by Christian Leroy Duncan, but before that, he was on a decent run. Yeah, and he come off the Contender Series. We hadn't lost for a long time before that. The last loss before that was 2018, where he took a 3-year break. So he's definitely an interesting opponent, one we don't know much about, so I won't spend too long on this. Kopilov's on a little bit of a skid. He got beat by Anthony Hernandez. He won a couple of fights, and he got beat by Paulo Costa, and then he got beat by Gregory Rodriguez. He needs a win. And I think the UFC is pinning, not the debutants, because obviously he's fought in the UFC, but the UFC newcomer against him. And Kopilov's a dog in this fight. He's a 6-4 underdog. Very interesting odds, very interesting fight. I'd probably leave it off my accumulator, to be honest, but if I had to be forced to do a prediction, I might just be swayed to go for Kopylov. I think he might just grind this out. And if he doesn't, obviously, then we know where he stands. Moving on, we've got Jim Miller against Jared Gordon. Now, again, for me, the matchmaking in the UFC is quite interesting, because you look at the fights and go, fucking hell, that could go either way, really. Jim Miller and Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon is one that is also, on a bit of a skid. He wins one, loses one. Lost most recently to Rafa Garcia. Before that, he beat Thiago Moses. Jim Miller is very similar at this stage in his career now. You can say it's two vets going at it. He also lost his last fight to Chase Hooper, not Roman Kopylov, actual Chase Hooper. And I like Chase Hooper. I think he's a very skilled fighter. So there's no shame in that. And I think obviously Jim Miller's got the greater caliber of wins under his belt. And again, Jim Miller is a big underdog. He's a 9-4 underdog. And I was enticed to go for him anyway, but the odds have enticed me even more. So we're going to go Jim Miller to win this one over Jared Gordon. Next, we've got Grant Dawson against Rebecca. Again, I like both fighters. You can look at it and go, fucking hell, it's good matchmaking. It's hard to call. I really like Grant Dawson. Fights out of American Top Team, with Chris Duncan, our mate of the channel. He was on a good little run there, and then he got beat by Manuel Torres, which was a shock for me. I didn't think he'd actually get beat, and he got TKO'd as well, which I didn't see the Bobby Green fight live, to tell you the truth, so I'd never actually seen Grant Dawson lose live, so it was an interesting one. I really thought he was going to win that last fight. Rebecca's on a little bit of a skid. He's been beat by Chris Duncan. He got beaten in his last fight against somebody that I can't remember right now. I think it definitely is an interesting one, but I'm going to go Grant Dawson all day in this one. Get him back in the win column, statement win, get him back on that ladder, and get him back working towards rankings and title aspirations and all that good stuff. Next fight on the card is a very, very interesting fight for me when I was looking into it. So you've got Joel Alvarez against Yaroslav Amosov. Now, this Amosov is 29-1. And he made his debut in the UFC by submitting Neil Magny, who is, kind of like a gatekeeper, if you will. Very impressive win. Obviously, before that, he'd been on Bellator and other organizations and stuff, so it's hard to gauge the level, but a big win like that over Neil Magny on your UFC debut is quite a bit of a statement, to tell you the truth. Joel Alvarez has obviously been in the UFC a little bit longer. 23-3, two good records, to be fair, when you actually look at them like that. I mean, I'm looking at the odds now, and Amosov is the favourite, which I am enticed to go for. When you look at Joel Alvarez, he's only lost to Arman Sarukian. in recent kind of history, if you will. The last loss before that was November 2019. He's been in the UFC since that. He lost on a UFC debut. Then he went on a good run. Then he lost to Arman Sarukian. And then since then, he's on a 4-fight win streak, most recently beaten Vicente Luque. And it's just a very interesting fight. I think to come into the UFC, fight Neil Magny, and then fight Joel Alvarez. Who Joel Alvarez, let's be honest, hasn't got that quite name, but he's a tough nut to crack. He's not a slouch by any means. I'm just swaying towards Amosov with how impressive he looked against Neil Magny. Obviously subbing him and stuff like that. Can Joel Alvarez get subbed? You'd like to think so, wouldn't you? I'm gonna go with Amosov just in this one, but again, as an accumulator, if you're looking for safe money, I'd probably leave this one off because it can go either way. Next fight on the card was supposed to be Jan Blachowicz, but obviously he's pulled out. And as of the time of recording this, there's no opponent confirmed for Guskov. I've seen it's Iwo, but again, not confirmed, so I don't want to break that down too much and it not actually be the case. So the next one after that is Bobby Green against Jeremy Stephens. Now, Bobby Green, for me, I like him. I remember when he had that little run in with Arman, and at the time I actually didn't like Arman, and then he fought Paddy, and obviously Paddy beat him. But then after that, I noticed, he was giving Paddy his props and stuff like that. I think he looks like a good guy. Obviously, a good guy just trying to make some money. A lot of fights as well going into this one. Jeremy Stephens is 29 and 22. Bobby Green is 34, 17 and 1. That is a lot of fight experience. I think Jeremy Stephens has bounced about a bit, and he's been in the bare knuckle. He's had a little try at boxing. He's fought PFL since the UFC. He's been around. He's come back to UFC, and he's been beat by Mason Jones. He's coming into this one saying he doesn't want to, end his UFC career on a loss. I don't know if that means this is his last fight. I don't know if that means he wants another stab at it in the UFC. But he stepped away, he's tried other bits. Obviously, he's made good money outside the UFC. Bobby Green's on a decent run, couple of fight win streak, most recently beaten Daniel Zellhuber, which for me, again, impressive win. It was a shock. I had Zellhuber winning that fight before the fight. And then other than that, to be fair, in his last few, he's been beat by Paddy and he's been beat by Maurizio Ruffi. So, no slouch. He's also got a win over Grant as well, Grant Dawson. I think it's a very interesting fight. I'm going to go Bobby Green, or King Green now, as he is called, to get the win. Next one is Sean Brady. He is fighting Joaquin Buckley. A very interesting fight for the welterweights because there's definitely title implications on the line in this one. If Joaquin Buckley come through Kamaru Usman in his most recent fight, let's be honest, he was next in line for the title shot. Saying that, it kind of coincided with all this stuff now with Makhachev meant to be fighting Topuria, so you don't actually know. But you'd like to think that at welterweight, Joaquin Buckley would have been fighting, for that title if he had come through it. Sean Brady's most recent fight is a loss. He got beat by Michael Morales. He got TKO'd. Big performance by Michael. Kind of put him in title contention, stuff like that. And then before that, he was on a good run. He'd only lost to Bilal. He had wins over Kelvin. He had wins over Gilbert Burns. He had a win over, obviously, Leon. The fight night in London. So, interesting fight. I mean, it's a tough one to call for me stylistically. I think stylistically, Sean Brady could put a bit of a pace on Joaquin Buckley and get the takedowns in, stand with him and strike and stuff like that and really make it a mixed martial arts fight. Joaquin Buckley, I did like his run of form. He beat Wonderboy, he beat Colby, and then I thought if he beat Kamaru, you've got to tip your hat to him kind of thing. I'm just swaying towards Sean Brady in this one. I think stylistically, Sean Brady could make this the type of fight where he can take it home, he can bring the win in, and make it that kind of fight for him. So I'm going to go Sean Brady just to win. So we've got a very tasty little accumulator building here. Let me tell you now, if you want to win some money, don't fucking listen to a word I'm saying. Next fight on the card is Alexander Volkov against Waldo Cortez Acosta. Now, Volkov for me is a dangerous opponent in this division. In my opinion, he's on a 6-fight win streak and he only got beat by Tom Aspinall, to kind of kill that win streak. Now, before everyone comes at me, I know Cyril Gane got the decision. Even Dana White didn't think that he won. Then again, Dana White's not the most, level-headed when it comes to that stuff. But in my opinion, Alexander Volkov won that Cyril Gane fight. And then he come back, beat Jalton Almeida as well. Looked pretty impressive. But Jalton, I think, was looking to be an opponent for Tom Aspinall, before all the Gane stuff. And then once Volkov beat him, it kind of muddied the waters. a little bit. And obviously Tom got poked the same night by Gan. But I mean, as a next one, I was thinking that it was going to be Tom Aspinall against Jailton Almeida. And yeah, Volkov got the nod, which was actually a very, very close call in that fight as well. I remember watching it and I had Volkov on my bet and I weren't confident that Volkov won, to tell you the truth. But, it is what it is. Waldo Cortez Acosta, most recent win over Derek Lewis, TKOing him. Nice performance. He is definitely up and coming, and he is a very, very dangerous man. Where I think Volkov might grind you out and stuff like that. He's more of a decision kind of guy, with some subs as well. I don't think he has ever won. No, sorry, yeah, tell a lie, he has. He's won a lot by KO and TKO as well. I know that, but I think lately it's been more, kind of decision based and sub based. Last person he TKO'd was Alexander Romanov, so that's an interesting one. I'm just swaying towards Volkov here. I am actually just swaying towards Volkov, and Waldo Cortez Acosta is not the favorite, which does shock me a little bit, just based off of his run and his hype and stuff. But I'm gonna go with Volkov to get the win, get the nod, and get it done. Now went through that card pretty rapid, to be fair. We're at the co-main event, which is Joshua Van against Tatsuo Taira. Joshua Van is a sick guy, isn't he? Let's be honest. That Brandon Royval fight, the Bruno Silva fight, obviously Pantoja was a good fight, a little bit of a weird way to win the belt. I just think sometimes when fighters win the belt, you call it whatever it is, like Aljo or Piotr Jan, he was getting beaten in the fight, free, knee, if whatever you want to call it. All of a sudden, Aljo's the champ. And then he goes on a tear and becomes one of the best bantamweights of all time. And then you look at Joshua Van now. Obviously, different weight class. I'm not saying he's the same as Aljo, but he's won it in a weird way. He was definitely on a tear. I personally thought the title fight came too soon for him, but he looked, he didn't look out of place in there by any means. I don't think he was winning, but then he obviously gets that win, and now this is his first kind of defense, and it has been pushed back, which I don't like. It, there's always some issues there. And then you've got Taira, who has been really, really good inside of the UFC. He did get beat by Brandon Royval. Joshua Van has got a win over Brandon Royval. So you look at that and go, does 1 + 1 = 2? Absolutely fucking not in the UFC. But yeah, he's been in the UFC a long time. He's got a good body of work. He most recently beat Brandon Moreno on the Merab versus Yan card, 2025. I mean, it's such a tough fight to call for me. I like Joshua Van. I do like him a lot. And to be fair, he's actually an underdog. I've only just looked and seen that. I'm going to go Joshua Van to get the win. He's a 13-8 dog. I think he gets it done. And now we're at the main event. The main event, that to be fair for me, is one of the most exciting fights inside of the UFC. Not because I think Sean Strickland's going to pull off an upset or anything like that. I think Khamzat Chimaev is absolute cinema every time he steps in there. I'm actually going to do a video breaking down his kind of change in demeanor, from the kind of berserker, if you will, to this calm, cool, collected, married man with kids. Maybe he spent too much time with Darren Till and thought, fucking hell, that kid is crazy. I want to sort my life out, get away from him. I'm only joking, of course. But yeah, Khamzat against Sean Strickland for me is one of the most exciting fights in the UFC, just because I think both fighters will bring it. Obviously Khamzat's going to be looking for the takedown. He said it in all of his interviews. Obviously, last week, Sean Strickland was saying he was going to shoot Khamzat, shoot his team, adding a little bit of hype to it as well. But I just think this fight is pretty exciting. And in the middleweight division, realistically, what other fight can you make that's more exciting than this right now? If you put Khamzat in there with a wrestler, can be a little bit boring. You put him in there with a sort of volume striker with cardio for days. You're not going to gas Sean Strickland out. Sean Strickland will go and go and go. You know how he's going to fight, yeah. He's going to get behind the jab. He's going to walk you forward. He's going to do the same stuff. But he can piece it up at times. The fight against Izzy, for me, made me stopped out in Sean Strickland ever again, because I had Izzy absolutely steamrolling him. I just thought the stars of the line for him. And Sean Strickland went in there, put a pace on him, beat him up. Izzy mightn't have been right, who knows? But at the end of the day, that was Sean Strickland's night. That was when I stopped out on Sean Strickland. This time, I absolutely fucking am doubting him now, because I think Khamzat is going to get the win. But I've seen people saying, Khamzat's going to sub early, the longer it goes, maybe Sean will come in because of the cardio. I can see Sean coming on in the later rounds, when Khamzat gasses out a bit. I always remember the fight against Gilbert, when Khamzat kind of slowed down a lot. Also the fight against Usman, razor thin fight for Khamzat, to be fair, and he was definitely getting tired, and Usman was a 5-round fighter at that point. You know, he was only fighting championships fights, stepped up on short notice to fight Khamzat at 85. And I think, you know, I think there is definitely a case to be made that the longer this fight goes, the more chance that Sean Strickland has of performing an upset. But I just can't see it personally. He looked very impressive against Fluffy Hernandez, though, Sean, to be fair. And the Dricus fight was also a shock for me because I actually had Sean winning that. And he's got to win over Paulo Costa. Like, it is a very torn fight, but I just think Khamzat at this stage right now, rested. You know, the last time he fought was August against Dricus when he won the belt, and now he's come back here after Ramadan and things like that. I think he's going to get out once more this year, trying to stay a little bit active. It is definitely an interesting one. And I've actually got, like I said, a video coming about Khamzat's kind of mentality, his activity and stuff like that. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. I'm going to go Khamzat to get this done. And he obviously is a big favourite. But I'm very, very, very excited for this fight, to be fair. Now, if I'm looking at my accumulator with the Amosov fight, so I'll run back through them. We've got Jim Miller to win at 9-4. We've got Amosov to win at 8-13. We've got Grant Dawson to win at 8-11. We've got King Green to win at 1-3. We've got Brady to win at 8-15. We've got Volkov to win at 8-13. We've got Joshua Van as one of the underdogs at 13-8. And then we've got Khamzat Chimaev at 2-9. If you put a £5 on that, you are going to get £480 back because your odds are 95-1. So really big odds. If I'm being honest, even though he's one of the shorter fighters on the cards in terms of odds, I am going to take Amosov off it because I just think that fight is it's very interesting. I'm very excited to watch it. I'm actually in Greece, so I'll be watching it on my little TNT on the go. Mad silly o'clock. I'm sure me fiance won't be too happy when I'm loud as fuck in the hotel room. But yeah, we take Amosov off. The odds are 58-1. So then if you put £5 on that, you're still getting nice money back, to be fair. I mean, you could take off one of the dogs. Jim Miller's a 9-4 dog. Joshua Van's a 13-8 dog. If you don't agree with me, let me know. Let's have a discussion down below. I appreciate everyone if you've got to the end of this video and hopefully, you know, enjoying the content and stuff like that. Let me know down below. Let me know if you agree with me, most importantly. And if you don't, like I said, let's have a chat down below and I'll see you in the next one.